Hello everyone and welcome back to Football Manager 2018 and what I think is the final part of this experiment where we make every Premier League team bankrupt, or at least we try to. It's become absolutely impossible in the new game to actually financially ruin one of the big clubs because they always recover. The game just resets their value and we cannot do anything about it. So what we're going to do today is completely destroy the reputation and finances of every Premier League team still in there. So that's the likes of United, Chelsea, City, Arsenal and Spurs. We're going to leave the likes of Ipswich, Fulham and Wolves, Bristol alone. But other clubs like Everton and Bournemouth will all be having their finances hit to completely upturn the Premier League and hopefully make it totally unrecognisable. We're going to go forward 5 years after that. I'm only going to do the reputation and finances once. I'm not going to mess around with it every single year. We're just going to go forward 5 years and see where the English football system has got to. We'll then look at the overall kind of European picture and different things like that and see if the Premier League can still compete before probably bringing this experiment to an end. Do drop a like on the video though if you would like another part of this experiment. If there's enough interest, I'll do another part, but I really am not sure where else this experiment can go. So let's go forward 5 years in time and take a look at each Premier League team. Well, we have gone 5 years into the future. This is where we left off last time. If we go forward 1 year first and have a look at what's happened, you can see Manchester City did win the title on a low of 74 points. They were also hit with a points deduction, so winning the title by 10 points with a 9-point deduction is very, very impressive. A lot of teams getting the administration hitting them. You've got the likes of United, Chelsea, City, Liverpool and Spurs all getting put into administration, but not Arsenal. Arsenal managed to survive just fine. But you can also see only 3 teams making it into the Champions League, which is quite interesting. So City did win the league, but Reading and Hull, the 2 teams to break into the Champions League places, the first teams to do that weren't part of the established order. Then Arsenal in 4th, and then it's United all the way down in 8th. And then you can't actually see the other teams. Chelsea and Liverpool both down towards the bottom, but Spurs going down with just 7 wins and a points deduction on there as well. Along with Everton, Bournemouth just going down, they were hit with a points deduction. But Liverpool and Chelsea have fallen from the top 5 all the way down to the relegation places. So the hit in reputation and the finances really having an impact on them that season. And then the following year, the title was won by Arsenal, the last remaining team right at the top there, winning it by 1 point. Still, they were the only ones to avoid administration, and Fulham just missing out on the title with Wolves finishing up there as well. Man United were in 4th, City in 7th, but Chelsea and Liverpool, after avoiding the drop last time, couldn't do the same this time, and they have gone down too. So they joined Spurs in the Championship, a really big fall from grace for those teams. And then the following year, we finally get our different Premier League winners. Fulham taking the title by 3 points over Arsenal. Man United managed to get their way back into the Champions League once more. City down in 6th place. And Reading, Millwall, Cardiff, 3 teams to go down. But there's not many major Premier League teams at the moment still left in there. And then the following year, United managed to win the title from City by quite some way in the end, nearly 20 points. Fulham, the Premier League champions, dropping down to 5th place, and Arsenal in 4th, missing out on Champions League football. And then Fulham came storming back to win their 2nd title in 3 years. United dropping down to 3rd, City 4th, Arsenal 5th. So it looks like the football pyramid has been mostly flipped at this point, and in the current season you can see it is City leading the way. But no sign of Chelsea or Liverpool. They must have both gone down. City are the interesting team at the moment because they are one of the few that have managed to hold on to their place. You can see the reputation still lower than where it was originally, but they've got plenty of cash. I mean, there's literally nothing you can do to stop these teams getting hundreds of millions of pounds in cash. Manchester United, the other one, they've still got rich finances after winning the title, managed by Paul Lambert, which is funny. But they've got about 266 million in the bank as well. And it's just ridiculous that they've got that much cash. Fulham, the new team at the top. You can look at that brilliant little rise there after getting back into the Premier League. And then they finished 2nd, 1st, fifth and then first again, managed by Ronald Koeman, and their reputation actually higher than the two Manchester clubs, but their finances not quite as rich, 141 million for Fulham. Arsenal a little bit further down. They currently have a decent reputation and plenty of cash as well. None of these clubs actually being hit financially whatsoever. If we just have a quick run through them, we'll be able to see if any of them have insecure finances 5 years later, but I highly suspect that that isn't the case, and you can see there not even one of them showing up as in debt or insecure. So all of the big teams hanging on perfectly fine, but you can see the Premier Division has dropped down to 5th place because of the low reputation teams that are in it, just ahead of the Russian Premier Division. So a huge fall from grace, which is why they have lost that Champions League spot. And if we do drop down a division, then you can see that in the Championship, that last season it was won by Sheffield Wednesday, but none of the former Premier League teams except for Huddersfield and Swansea doing very well. Leicester, Southampton are in there around the playoff areas too. Bournemouth getting relegated again, and Sunderland are in 13th, although they were in the Championship. West Brom down in 17th. If we have a look at League One, then you can see Everton and Chelsea all the way down here. They've actually fallen that far. Chelsea are 5th in League One last season. That's a huge drop, look, from 2nd place, 2nd, 1st, down to 16th, 19th, 24th and 20th before recovering up to 9th. So they've managed to bring themselves back up quite some way, but it looks like their finances aren't too bad. I mean, for a League One team, they've got 88 million in the bank, and I'm sure they will continue to increase that amount. But Liverpool down in 18th place, they've really fallen off a cliff. 20th, 23rd, 14th and then 16th, and even lower than that in 18th now. But they're still rich in their finances. Their reputation has never recovered, which is why they are so far down. You can see 268 million there. If we have a look at their transfer history for the last few seasons, you can see there's more going out than coming in. Not much money moving hands whatsoever. 9.5 million there. But they've just had to sell players and not really sign any. That's the season that destroyed them. 224 million going out in 2021. And the year before that they did actually spend some cash. I imagine that's exactly the same for Chelsea. If we go back, 37 million going out, 120 million going out, mostly more money going out than coming in. Sorry, I've gone the wrong way there. If we go back to the last season there, 1 million going out, 1 million, 10 million spent, and then you get 138 million going out, and that's those two seasons there are what destroyed Chelsea and their ability to compete, dropping them down into League One. So quite a big difference there. If we have a look at League Two, are there any Premier League teams in here? Not that I can see. West Ham deducted 12 points, but even then they were still all the way down there. Just 5 points on the board, only 3 wins. They're almost certainly going to get relegated from League Two. We're only halfway through the season at the moment, but I can't see them making up a 24-point gap based on this evidence. If we go back to last season, you can see they finished all the way down in 19th, but weren't able to get their way back up. And in the National League, are there any teams down here we need to be aware of? This is the current season, and there aren't any down there right now. The season before, though, Watford managed to get promoted, but they were all the way down in the Vanarama National League, the only Premier League team, or former Premier League team we've seen, that have actually been knocked out of league football. And you can see the change there happened exactly 5 years ago when we did make the change to their reputation. They had 19th, followed by 24th, followed by 24th, followed by 23rd, settling at 7th before making their way back into the Football League last year with a 2nd place finish. But they have insecure finances. They have never quite recovered, and their finances are actually not too bad now for a team that's just come out of the non-league system. They've got 10 million in the bank, but they are never going to reach the heights of the Premier League again with reputation like that. Their transfers must have taken an absolute hammering 5 years ago. That's the season they went down, 15 million and then 11 million. And every year they've had pretty much more go out than come in. They've certainly not really spent any money. So Watford, the really big team, the team to be hit the most by the damage in reputation. And the Premier League team's just not able to compete whatsoever. If we have a look next at the Champions League, then we can see if any Premier League teams have actually managed to win it, and they haven't. for quite some time. If we look at the stages, drop back to last season and have a look at, say, the semi-finals, you can see no English teams in there, all there. I mean, it's going to be a while since we've seen anyone in there. We've gone back 7 years now. 8 years ago, Manchester United made the final, where they did lose to Barcelona 2-1. If we have a look at the quarters, did any English teams make it this far? Chelsea there, Chelsea again, and then no English teams making it to this stage in any of the previous 5 or 6 seasons. So the reputation having a big damage in the Champions Cup. In the Euro Cup, more likely to have success here, but you can see Man City in 2021, the last team to do anything here, and no progress since then, despite some not totally elite teams winning the competition. So disappointment for them in Europe. If we have a look at the FA Cup, if we can, then you can see the past winners here looking a lot more varied. It was a while until a big team didn't win the competition, with Norwich beating Millwall in 23-24, and since then you've had Middlesbrough and Millwall win it as well. And in the Carabao Cup, you can see it's only in the last 2 seasons that the big teams have failed to win it, with Bristol and Hull taking home the competition. But ultimately, it's been really, really disappointing, this experiment, because none of the teams have actually been able to go bankrupt. No matter what you do, they just do not struggle for finances. And if we have a look at, for instance, Manchester United, and we're actually going to make ourselves manager here. So we are now manager of Manchester United. And if we head to their finances screen, you can see they've got an overall balance of 266 million. Their expenditure, can we see? Oh, there we go. Debt and loans. They've only got a net debt of £47 million. I mean, what is that about? They had an original debt of 296 million, 246 remaining on that. That started back in 2022. So this is what they've been doing. They've been consolidating the debt into a company voluntary agreement, which they pay off over time. A 30-year debt, that one, but they're not too far away from actually paying the whole lot off. They've only got 47 million net debt, but it says it's 246. I suppose that's their cash minus the loan. So maybe that's what they've been doing, but it doesn't explain away the fact that over the course of this experiment, I've given them about, I would guess, 2 billion at least of debt, and yet they've only got 246 million loans. So I've got no idea what they've been doing with their money, but at least they do have some recognition of their debt on the game. But ultimately, it's just being absolutely wiped out for no reason that I can really find out. So let me know if you guys have tried anything like this on your saves, and if you've seen anything different to what I have. And do drop a like on the video if you're interested in one more part to this experiment. I think the experiment has now come to a pretty natural end. It's impossible to financially ruin any of the big teams in the Premier League. But do subscribe to the channel if you want a new experiment in 2 days' time. You could also follow me on Twitter using the link in the description, or support the channel on Patreon if you're feeling generous. But until next time, see ya.